Hey there, YouTubers. This is Gus. I'm in the garage, so it's a little dark here. I'm not going to cut the light on. But this is Gus's thoughts here from Healing X Outreach. We had a little bit of a technical problem this Sunday with Blog Talk Radio, and I'm really disappointed. Blog Talk Radio has really gone backwards as far as service is concerned, and this may be I think very likely my last year using them. I might use another service. I might just do YouTube. I don't know what's going to go on right now. But I'll tell you, something had really struck a nerve with me. Certain things have happened recently that really got me thinking. Lady Cee and JT did a program, Critical Thinkers. They were interviewing Joyce, who was, I think, a family friend for the Stewart family. And I've been listening to all the interviews. I listened to Rick on Six Screens interview Joyce, and I didn't get to hear the interview by Parker and M. Martz, but I've also gotten a lot of feedback from my friend Marcus Julian Watson. Subscribe to his channel. He's a good guy. So Marcus is a former Jehovah's Witness. I'm a former Jehovah's Witness, and something that really JT's always really good at. I'll tell you that their show, Critical Thinkers, is right spot onto his expertise about breaking down the psychological barriers of Jehovah's Witnesses and people that come out of the cults. And he always has really, really good analogies. And he really hit home with a couple of things that have happened in my life. And it has something to do with the psychology of Jehovah's Witnesses and how isolation is what is the technique that the cults use, specifically the Jehovah's Witnesses. That is that they isolate Jehovah's Witnesses from society. And what happens to Jehovah's Witnesses is if they want to even come back into society, if they've completely integrated into the world of Jehovah's Witnesses, it's a complete different world. And I think he used the analogy of prison, how he had I think a relative who was like 6'4", a big guy, and they put him in isolation for 30 days, and here this aggressive guy in 30 days was docile. There's a couple of other things that happens with, and this actually applies to social media, and so many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses really engaging in social media, and some of us really need to work on ourselves before we start counseling others in social media. And we're all a work in progress. But the idea of isolation, I'll tell you, I work a lot of jobs. I work 80 hours a week. I work 3 jobs. And I know for me personally, I wasn't realizing my isolation from my family had an effect on me. And the problem is, even though I wasn't completely isolated, that is, I'm engaging with people at my jobs, but a lot of my jobs do involve being in the car by myself, or being at a desk by myself, and really, but still, it's away from the family dynamic. And so, when you are isolated from a community, and in this case it's my own family, you tend to think differently. You don't fit in quite, like the way they do. You're now engaging into their world and their realm, and you don't know exactly how to engage because you've been isolated from that atmosphere. And I knew that certain situations happened where I have to admit that to my family. I have to admit that to my wife, to my daughter, that, my reactions have been, partially due to my being isolated, and it's my fault. Not that, I have any choice but to work the schedule I work, but isolation has an effect on people. It has an effect on you emotionally. And so I had to come to grips that, I had to really admit that, my isolation has had an effect on me in not being able to come home and be a part of the family and understand the dynamic there, and they may have their own dynamic, and I'm just really just kind of interfering or actually imposing myself in certain circumstances. Not going to be real specific, but they understood where I was coming from. And I just, and applying this to the Stewart family, and also to many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who come out of the Jehovah's Witnesses, is that with isolation tends to be selfishness. That is that you have been out of the loop of regular society, and now you come into society and you selfishly want some type of attention. You think that you're qualified or deserve that type of attention. I'll tell you one of the things that I went through when I first came out of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and most of us Jehovah's Witnesses think we know the Bible more than the churches or more than the Christians, and so I felt that because I went into this church and I came out of a cult, that I should be in some type of teaching status, that I could teach them a thing or two about the Bible, because really they don't know the Bible like I do. And I was actually really, really wrong. I mean, there's no doubt there are a lot of Christians who don't know their Bible, but I was by no means should have been instantly put in a position of teaching in a church. I was not qualified, and I did not know as much as I thought that I knew, according to my own ego. And that happens in social media. Social media has now fostered an environment where people can tend to be very selfish. People can get a platform. They feel now that they can find a place where they are needed, and believe it or not, it's good to be needed. It feels good when people come to you. They look to you for counsel and look for you, but not all of us should be doing it. And I say that because in my early years, I was absolutely unqualified, and I was put in the best place to minister to people. You know what place that was? Burping babies. I was in church nurseries for about 3 or 4 years in 2 different congregations, and I was thinking, well, I should at least be teaching some Bible study group, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to teach a Bible study group. I wasn't ready to speak on that platform. I knew nothing. I needed to sit down, watch my environment, and learn how to fit in. And not that there's cliques, but I needed to understand what it was like on the outside world. It's not all about me. And we tend to do that. This is what social media does. We put up a YouTube channel and we get, 10 or 12,000 followers or subscribers and all of these. And some of us are just really not qualified. And I want to share something. I know Lady Cee and JT personally. And I was one of the first Jehovah's Witnesses to really meet them directly. And you know what? They did some really smart things. And we are seeing the fruition of that. JT and Lady Cee, they tried to do a few things and then they stepped back for a couple years. And I think this was JT's his goal. They stepped back. They really absorbed a lot of things. They really got a lot of things in order. And you see what they're doing on YouTube. They have the most unique channel, I think, out of any ex-Jehovah's Witness. They have the experience, they have the knowledge, they have the wisdom, they have the guests that they've built up through the years, and they are bringing something really unique to the ex-JW community. We need to pay attention. It has nothing to do with religion. It has something to do with the psychology of people in extreme thought control, and it's really fantastic. And I've always learned a lot from JT. Just in conversation, the guy is really, his experience as an elder, his experience as a Bethelite, and his experience just in general in life is really showing in the classes he's took and some critical thought classes. But so JT and Lady Cee are doing a fantastic job on their channel. So, I would say subscribe to Critical Thinkers channel. But I have also a family relative, and this family relative is still living in the Jehovah Witness isolationist mentality. In fact, he's has not made any new friends. He went to a church for a while, but he really didn't. He didn't develop any friendships in the church. He stays home for weeks at a time, and this family friend, I saw him. He got into an argument with one of his daughters, and I was really, I put it up to the fact that um, that he's just really a little bit socially inept. He comes out of his closet and he thinks everything should be about him. He'll fictitiously create illnesses so that people will pander to him, and it's because he wants attention, the same attention that he has in that house when he's by himself. Because in that house, when he's by himself, he's all alone, so it's all about him. So when he comes out into the outside world, finally steps out into the outside world, it's got to be still about him. He's clamoring for attention, and instead of really developing healthy relationships. And I think that that's important when you come out of the Jehovah's Witnesses. You need to start to develop community. You need to develop healthy relationships, and so this is a family friend of mine. And I think that something like that happened with the Stewarts. I really do. I think the mom, according to Joyce, claimed to be of the anointed. And sometimes people claim to be of the anointed because out of sheer arrogance and selfishness and a desire to shine, to be looked up to for as a counselor, as a great spiritual person. And next to her husband, she couldn't shine. Her husband was brilliant. The man was, according to Joyce, was developing artificial intelligence. And he was brilliant beyond his education. But she wanted to be special. She wanted to be a prophet. And she isolated herself. She isolated herself theologically. She wanted to be special. And we do that. We want attention. We want to be special. And it backfires sometimes. It doesn't go according to plan. So I really think that, yes, the Watchtower is to blame also because it's the Watchtower Society, the Jehovah's Witnesses, create selfish bots. Like robots, selfish bots. People that are not in touch with social interaction. People that feel that they all must be in authority to receive the type of attention that they so desire. And the ones that don't fit in usually get left behind. It's funny because that's why the organization is so cliquish. Only the ones that are the most active in field service, the ones that give the best talks, are the ones that shine and get that attention. It's funny because some of these people, the same people who are elders over congregations, are janitors in some buildings. But inside that Kingdom Hall, they're a big shot. And that's what the cults foster, this idea of importance, this idea of selfishness by isolation. In the Kingdom Hall, you're a big shot. And then you go out of the Kingdom Hall and you're a nothing burger. And lastly, it reminds me of the film Shawshank Redemption. You know Jake. Old Jake had the little bird. Jake was in charge of the library. And Jake would go ahead and go around his cart and pass his books. And in the prison that he spent so much time in, he was a big shot. He was a guy who can get things for people. He can, not just books, but things that people need would be passed through his book cart. He was a big guy, big shot. And then he gets parole, and Jake has to fit in the big, wide world. And things just got too fast for him. He couldn't fit in. And eventually Jake took his life. Jake took his life in that house that he was staying in, that the prison the prison system gave him, because he couldn't fit in. Because he was used to being a big shot inside, and out here the world just passed by. He couldn't develop friendships. He couldn't develop community. And he was lost. And that's what happens to so many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. We step out into the world for a couple years and we get lost, and it's more than one murder-suicide. I'll tell you of another suicide that I heard, a murder-suicide. Years ago, I think it was in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s. This is when Randy Waters' freeminds.org was a really, really big website and was getting a lot of hits. Randy was a great news guy. I'll never forget one of the worst tragedies I ever heard happen to an ex-Jehovah Witness. It was a lady who committed suicide with her 3 children. And she poured gasoline into a tub with her and her 3 children and lit the match and died with her 3 children. One of the most tragic things I've ever heard, next to the Stewart family's murder-suicide. It's because people just can't fit in. And so I want to let the XJW community know that we have to really self-examine ourselves. Are we isolating ourselves, even on the outside? Are we developing community? Are we developing friendships? And I just want to say that the Christian church is there for you. There's a church out there waiting for you. Maybe it's not a Baptist, maybe it's not a Lutheran, maybe it's there's a church out there waiting for you. There's a community of people waiting there for you. And there you can glean from them. And also, not only that, you can add to them. Iron sharpens iron. Christianity needs people from the cults and their experience. And people from the cults need the love of Christians and community that Christians provide. I'll be talking a little bit more about that in association with 1 Corinthians and concerning Paul's diatribe about the many parts of the body. But I just wanted to let everybody know that let's really work on ourselves. Let's not isolate ourselves. Let's develop community. Let's develop friendships. And if you know ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that are fresh out, reach out to them. Be a friend to them. I know some ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that I've extended myself to. And by the way, I made a new friend just this Saturday night. I fell asleep. I fell asleep talking to him to the wee hours of the morning. So I was at my night job, and we talked to this guy named Donnie, and he's from Philly, and he told me a little bit about his story, and we talked. We had great fellowship. So sorry about that, Donnie. And Donnie, I've already texted Donnie about it, but I'll say publicly sorry to Donnie for falling asleep. It must have been around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and then I heard him hang up, and I woke up. And I was sleeping on the job, by the way. So God bless everyone. This Saturday we're gonna have a retelecast with David Reed, former elder who wrote Blood on the Altar, about the blood issue, and he was a great news guy back in the day with the Witnesses Now for Jesus convention. You all have a great week. Bye-bye.